Clara had 3 days to save her brother, or sell herself to the devil. The year was 1840. Winter's icy grip held the small village of Thornfield tight, where smoke curled from cottage chimneys and hunger lived behind closed doors. Clara Bennett stood at her window, watching dawn break over frost-covered fields. At 23, her life wasn't supposed to end up like this. But fate had other plans. "Clara, there's a letter." Her brother Thomas rushed in, his thin face pale. His hands shook as he held up the envelope bearing the official seal of Lord Harrington. Clara's heart sank. Lord Harrington, the richest man in the county, owner of most of the land, and the cruelest person she had ever known. "Is it about the debt?" she whispered, already knowing the answer. Thomas nodded, tears filling his eyes. "I have 3 days before they take me to debtor's prison." The debt wasn't even Thomas's fault. Their father had borrowed money from Lord Harrington before he died. Now, with no way to pay it back, Thomas would be locked away, possibly forever. Clara took the letter, reading it twice to be sure. £500. Might as well be 5,000. It was an impossible sum for a seamstress and her brother. But there was something else in the letter. A note personally written by Lord Harrington himself. "I would be willing to discuss another arrangement if Miss Bennett wishes to call upon me tomorrow." Clara knew what that meant. At 38, Lord Harrington was looking for a wife. His first 2 wives had died under mysterious circumstances, both leaving him wealthier than before. People whispered about it in the village, but no one dared speak up. "I won't let you go to prison," Clara said firmly, squeezing her brother's hand. What Lord Harrington didn't know was that Clara had a dangerous secret. For the past year, she had been helping local farmers hide some of their crops from his tax collectors. She organized secret midnight meetings, teaching poor families how to keep just enough food to survive the winter rather than giving everything to their greedy landlord. If Lord Harrington ever found out, she wouldn't just face prison, she'd hang for treason. That night, Clara slipped out into the darkness. She made her way to the old oak tree where the farmers were waiting. "We heard about Thomas," whispered Mrs. Parker, an elderly widow. "What will you do?" Clara squared her shoulders. "Whatever I must." "Be careful," warned Farmer Collins. "Harrington sees everything. Remember what happened to the Miller family when they couldn't pay." Clara remembered all too well. The Millers had been thrown out in a snowstorm. Their youngest child hadn't survived the night. "I have a plan," Clara said, though her voice trembled. "But I need everyone to lie low for a while. No meetings. Hide your extra food well." As she walked home under the stars, Clara felt the weight of her secret pressing down on her. Tomorrow she would face Lord Harrington. Tomorrow she would make a deal with the devil himself. What she didn't know was that someone was watching her from the shadows. Someone who had been tracking her movements for weeks. And that someone was about to change everything. Morning came too quickly. Clara put on her best dress, a simple blue gown she had made herself. It was nothing fancy, but it was all she had. "You don't have to do this," Thomas said, watching her pin up her hair. "Yes, I do." Clara's hands were steady, even if her heart wasn't. "We have no choice." Lord Harrington's mansion sat on top of the hill, looking down on the village like a hawk watching for prey. The walk there took nearly an hour, giving Clara plenty of time to think about what she might say and what she might have to agree to. The butler showed her into a study filled with expensive furniture. Lord Harrington stood by the window, a tall man with cold eyes and a smile that never reached them. "Miss Bennett." He didn't bow or offer her a seat. "I assume you're here about your brother's unfortunate situation." Clara curtsied, swallowing her pride. "Yes, my lord. We cannot pay the debt, but perhaps there is another way." Lord Harrington walked slowly around her, studying her like she was a horse at auction. "You are quite pretty, Miss Bennett. Not beautiful, but acceptable." Clara bit her tongue. "I find myself in need of a wife," he continued. "Someone to manage my household and provide me with an heir. In return, I would be willing to forgive your brother's debt entirely." There it was, the offer she had expected. Marriage to a man she feared and hated. "May I have some time to consider?" Clara asked, though she already knew her answer. "You have until tomorrow," Lord Harrington said sharply. "After that, your brother goes to prison." and I hear the conditions there are most unpleasant." As she turned to leave, he added, "Oh, and Miss Bennet? I would expect complete loyalty from my wife. No secrets." The way he said it made her blood run cold. Did he know? Had someone told him about her meetings with the farmers? Outside, rain began to fall, soaking through Clara's thin cloak as she hurried home. She found Thomas packing a small bag. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm leaving," he said. "I won't let you marry that monster for me." Clara grabbed his arm. "And go where? With winter coming? You'd freeze to death before reaching the next town. Better that than seeing you sacrifice your life for mine." Thomas shouted, tears in his eyes. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. The faces of everyone who depended on her kept flashing through her mind. Thomas, the Parker widow with her 3 grandchildren, the Collins family with their newborn baby. At dawn, she made her decision. She would marry Lord Harrington and use her position as his wife to help the villagers even more. She could access his accounts, learn his weaknesses, maybe even change some of his cruel policies. It was dangerous. If he ever found out what she was doing, she would pay with her life. But what choice did she have? The next day, she returned to the mansion and gave Lord Harrington her answer. "Wise choice," he said, taking her hand in his cold grip. "We shall be married in 1 week's time." 1 week. 7 days to prepare for a lifetime of misery. What Clara didn't know was that as she left the mansion, Lord Harrington summoned his most trusted servant. "Follow her," he ordered, "day and night. I want to know everywhere she goes, everyone she speaks to." The servant nodded. "And if she's hiding something, my lord?" Lord Harrington's smile was like a knife. "Then our wedding day will be even more memorable than she expects." As the wedding approached, Clara secretly met with the farmers one last time. "After I'm married," she whispered, "I'll have access to his accounts. I can help you more than ever." But as she spoke, a shadow moved behind a tree. Someone was listening. Someone who would soon tell Lord Harrington everything. The trap was set, and Clara was walking right into it. The wedding day arrived with dark clouds hanging low over the village church. Villagers lined the road, their faces a mix of pity and worry as Clara walked past in a simple white dress, her brother at her side. "It's not too late," Thomas whispered. "We could run." Clara squeezed his arm. "And go where? This is our only chance." The church was filled with Lord Harrington's wealthy friends, all curious to see the common girl who had somehow caught the eye of the richest man in the county. Clara felt their stares like needles on her skin. Lord Harrington waited at the altar, dressed in expensive black clothes. His smile sent chills down Clara's spine. "You look adequate," he whispered as she took her place beside him. The ceremony began. The priest spoke of love and honor, words that seemed to mock the real reason they were there. When it came time for Clara to say, "I do," her voice almost failed her. I do," she finally managed, thinking only of her brother's freedom. Just as the priest was about to declare them husband and wife, Lord Harrington raised his hand. "Before we complete this ceremony," he announced loudly, "I believe there is something my bride wishes to confess." Clara's heart stopped. The church fell silent. "Nothing, my lord." Lord Harrington continued with a cruel smile. "Then allow me to share what my servants have discovered." He pulled a small book from his pocket, Clara's notebook where she had written down all the names of the farmers she had helped, details of their hidden crops, and plans for future meetings. "It seems my bride has been organizing a small rebellion against me," Lord Harrington declared. "Helping farmers hide their crops, avoiding my rightful taxes." Gasps filled the church. Clara's legs went weak. She had kept that notebook hidden under a loose floorboard in her room. How had he found it? "The penalty for such actions is prison," Lord Harrington continued coldly. "Or worse." He turned to Thomas. "And as for you, not only will your debt remain, but you'll be charged as her accomplice. Guards, seize them both." 2 large men moved toward Clara and Thomas. The villagers watched in horror, too afraid to interfere. But Clara wasn't done yet. She had suspected Lord Harrington might discover her secret, and she had prepared for this moment. "Before your men take us," Clara said loudly, stepping forward, "perhaps your guests would be interested in seeing what I found in your private study." Lord Harrington's smile faltered. What nonsense is this? Clara reached into a hidden pocket in her dress and pulled out several folded papers. 3 days ago, while you were out hunting, I took the opportunity to explore the mansion that was to be my home. In your locked drawer, I found these. She unfolded the papers, documents showing how Lord Harrington had falsified records, claimed lands that weren't rightfully his, and even evidence suggesting his involvement in the mysterious deaths of his previous wives. You lying little. Lord Harrington lunged for the papers, but Clara quickly handed them to the priest. These are copies, Clara announced. The originals have been sent to the magistrate in London, along with my sworn statement. The church erupted in chaos. Lord Harrington's wealthy friends murmured in shock, backing away from him. The guards looked uncertainly at their master, not sure what to do. You'll hang for this, Lord Harrington hissed, his face twisted with rage. Perhaps, Clara replied steadily. But not alone, it seems. At that moment, the church doors burst open. The village farmers Clara had helped, over 20 families, poured in, led by Farmer Collins. We heard there might be trouble, Collins said, the farmers forming a protective circle around Clara and Thomas. Lord Harrington looked around wildly, suddenly realizing he was surrounded not just by confused wedding guests, but by villagers who had suffered under his cruelty for years. This is not over, he snarled, backing toward a side door. Guards! But to his shock, his own guards didn't move. One of them quietly said, My family was almost starved last winter because of your taxes, my lord. I think I'll stay right here. As Lord Harrington reached for the door, it swung open to reveal the magistrate from the neighboring county, along with several officers. Lord Harrington, the magistrate said formally, I received some very disturbing documents about your business practices. I believe we need to have a long discussion. Clara watched as the color drained from Lord Harrington's face. The trap she had laid had worked perfectly, but the danger wasn't over yet. The magistrate might still decide to charge her too, and Lord Harrington's powerful friends might protect him despite the evidence. The next few moments would determine everything. And then Lord Harrington made his final, desperate move. With officers closing in, Lord Harrington revealed a small pistol hidden in his coat. Gasps echoed through the church as he pointed it directly at Clara. If I'm ruined, he growled, then you'll not live to celebrate. Before anyone could react, Thomas leapt forward, pushing his sister aside, just as Lord Harrington pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the church. Thomas fell, clutching his shoulder as officers tackled Lord Harrington, wrestling away the pistol. It's not deep, the village doctor said after examining Thomas. The bullet grazed him. He'll recover. Clara hugged her brother tight. You saved my life. Thomas managed a weak smile. You saved mine first. The magistrate approached Clara, his face serious. Miss Bennet, the evidence against Lord Harrington is damning. However, you've also admitted to organizing resistance against lawful taxation. Clara stood tall, still in her wedding dress, now stained with her brother's blood. I did what was necessary to help people survive. If that's a crime, I accept the consequences. The magistrate studied her. The law is not always just, especially when twisted by men like Lord Harrington. He glanced at the farmers standing protectively around Clara. These people seem to think highly of you. She saved my children from starving last winter. Mrs. Parker spoke up. Others stepped forward with similar stories. The magistrate nodded. I believe there's been enough suffering here. Lord Harrington will face trial for his crimes. As for your activities, he paused. Perhaps they were simply the actions of a concerned citizen helping her neighbors through hard times. In the weeks that followed, Lord Harrington's crimes became known throughout the county. His properties were seized, and many of his false claims to land were reversed. After his conviction, the court made a surprising decision. Since much of his wealth had been built on fraud, large portions of his estate were redistributed. The farmers received ownership of the lands they had worked for generations. The magistrate, impressed by Clara's courage, appointed her as steward of the remaining community lands. By the following spring, the village was transformed. Families planted crops without fear. Children had full bellies. And in the mansion on the hill, now converted into a school, Clara taught the village children to read and write. One summer evening, as Clara walked through fields golden with wheat, she spotted Michael, the blacksmith's son who had helped deliver her evidence, waiting by the old oak tree. "This village has seen enough of arranged marriages," he said with a smile. "Perhaps it's time for something different." Clara smiled back. "Perhaps it is." As the sun set, Clara knew that challenges would always exist. There would always be those who abused power, but she was no longer afraid. She had learned that one person with courage could inspire many, and that sometimes the greatest heroes aren't those who fight with swords, but those who stand up for what's right, even when standing alone.